Welcome back to The Deep Dive, your essential shortcut to navigating complex stories and emerging truths. Today, we're not just looking back at a cold case. We're actually stepping into a decade-old mystery, one that has baffled investigators, haunted a quiet Georgia community, and really captivated true crime enthusiasts for 10 long years.
10 years is a long time for no answers.
It really is. But the astonishing news, and this is why we're diving in now, is that this isn't just history. It's a rapidly unfolding narrative. We're talking monumental breakthroughs finally happening.
It's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah. Imagine the frustration, right? The silence for so long, and then suddenly this surge of activity. It brings answers that seems, I don't know, utterly out of reach, now maybe tantalizingly close. We are diving deep into the Dermond double murders. This is the tragic story of Russell and Shirley Dermond, an elderly couple. They were brutally murdered back in May of 2014 in what should have been the idyllic serenity of their Lake Oconee home.
And the details are, well, they're rough.
They are, frankly, shocking. Russell, the husband, found decapitated in his own garage. His wife, Shirley, discovered 10 days later, weighted down in the depths of the lake miles away.
Just horrific.
For years, this case was just a wall of silence. But as we speak, it's an active, truly invigorated investigation. There have been game-changing developments just this year, really in the last few months.
Right. And for this deep dive, we've really pulled together quite a range of sources to try and get the full picture, the whole timeline and these recent breakthroughs. We've gone through recent news reports meticulously from key Atlanta outlets, FOX5 Atlanta, Atlanta News First, WSB TV Channel 2 Atlanta, and also Georgia Public Broadcasting provides some crucial insights.
Good local coverage is key in these cases.
Absolutely. And beyond just the media reports, we've got direct statements, updates from the Putnam County Sheriff's Office, especially from Sheriff Howard Sills. He's been the lead investigator tirelessly from day one.
His perspective must be invaluable.
Oh, definitely. We also have critical input from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. And, we've even looked at the public discourse, places like Reddit's Unresolved Mysteries forum.
Right, because sometimes those forums really highlight the questions that stick with people.
Exactly. They show what aspects truly grip the public imagination. So our mission today is clear. Unpack the known facts, explore the really perplexing oddities, and there are many, and then dive into these latest forensic advancements that are breathing new life into this case.
Basically giving you, our listener, that shortcut to understanding this complex, chilling mystery as it unfolds right now. Okay, let's start by grounding ourselves in who the victims were, Russell and Shirley Dermond, because understanding them, I think, only deepens the tragedy. Russell Joseph Dermond. He was a man who had already lived a pretty full and remarkable life, a World War II Navy veteran, served his country.
Right.
After his service, he built a very successful career. He established and owned several Hardee's franchises, mainly around the Atlanta area.
Successful businessman.
Yeah, definitely. He retired back in 1994, settling into what really should have been a peaceful, well-deserved retirement.
Golden years.
Exactly. His wife, Shirley Bell Wilcox, they married way back on December 15th, 1950, so long, long marriage. Together, they raised 4 children, had 9 grandchildren.
And big family.
Yeah. And by all accounts, they weren't just residents. They were really part of the fabric of the Greater Waters subdivision of Lake Oconee. It's a beautiful, gated, pretty affluent community about 12 miles northeast of Eatonton, Georgia.
So, well-established, respected people.
Absolutely. Respected, established members. Their lives seemed filled with the routines and comforts of a long, happy marriage. At the time of their deaths, Russell was 88 and Shirley was 87, truly pillars of their community. And leading up to the crime, everything seemed just normal, comfortable, predictable rhythm. Russell was last seen alive on Thursday, May 1st, 2014. Just running routine errands in Eatonton. Later that same day, both Russell and Shirley spoke with their son Brad on the phone. Just a normal check-in.
Right.
The upcoming weekend, they had plans. They were expected at a Kentucky Derby party with neighbors on Saturday, May 3rd.
So social plans, everything seemed fine.
Totally fine. This established routine, this normal activity, it just makes what happened next even more chilling. Utterly unexpected. It really sets the stage for the sudden, violent disruption of their lives.
And this is where we need to touch on something from the family's past. It's profoundly tragic, but it's also been a source of public speculation that investigators have had to address directly.
Okay, what's that?
Their oldest son, Mark Dermond, was actually murdered in Atlanta back in the year 2000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, apparently during a crack cocaine purchase. Now, as you can imagine, for many people, hearing that immediately sparks questions, theories.
Hmm.
Could there be a connection between Mark's death and his parents' murders 14 years later?
Yeah, I can see how people would immediately wonder about that, a family tragedy like that.
Right. But it's crucial, really crucial, for our listeners to understand this. Law enforcement, specifically Sheriff Howard Sills and the FBI, have explicitly and repeatedly stated they believe there is no connection between Mark's murder and the murder of his parents.
Okay, so they've actively ruled that out based on their investigation.
Yes, and they've been very clear about it. It highlights how investigators have to deal with the public's natural desire to, connect dots, even when the evidence leads them elsewhere. It helps manage assumptions and keeps the focus on the actual evidence in Russell and Shirley's case, not potential red herrings.
That's a really important clarification. Okay, so let's get back to May 2014. The first sign something was wrong. It started when the Dermonds didn't show up for that Kentucky Derby party on Saturday, May 3rd, which apparently was very out of character for them.
The social couple?
Exactly. So neighbors grew concerned, tried calling, no answer. Then, 3 days later, Tuesday, May 6th, a neighbor, clearly worried, went over to check on them. And what this neighbor found inside that seemingly peaceful home, it was just a scene of unspeakable horror. Shattered the community's peace. The front door was unlocked. Yeah. And inside the couple's two-car garage, the neighbor found Russell's decapitated body, lying on the floor in a small, sort of contained pool of blood.
Oh, Mike.
His head was completely severed, and to this day, it has never, ever been recovered.
Unimaginable.
Yeah.
In his own garage.
The brutality in a place that should be safe.
Yeah.
It's hard to wrap your head around. And as the initial shock wore off and the investigation began, more disturbing details started to emerge. Forensics found gunshot residue on Russell's collar.
On his collar, okay.
Yeah, and this detail led Sheriff Howard Sills, who's seen a lot in his career, to a really chilling theory. He believes Russell was shot in the head before the decapitation.
Okay, why? What's the thinking there?
Sills believes the motive for the decapitation, that extreme act, wasn't just about the killing itself, but specifically to prevent police from finding the bullet.
To hide the ballistics. Make it impossible to trace the weapon.
Exactly. It points to a highly intelligent, coldly premeditated attempt to destroy critical evidence. Not just violence, but calculated evidence destruction.
Right.
And adding to the horror and confusion, Shirley was nowhere in the house. Just gone.
So kidnapping was the first thought.
That was the immediate suspicion, yes.
Yeah.
It added this layer of terrifying uncertainty to an already impossible situation. Was she alive? Taken? Where was she?
Right. But that hope, that initial hope that Shirley might still be alive somewhere, it was tragically extinguished 10 days later.
10 days. That must have been agony for the family.
Unbearable.
Yeah.
On Friday, May 16th, 2014, some fishermen out on Lake Oconee made another horrific discovery. Shirley's body, floating in the lake, miles away from their home.
Miles away? How is she concealed?
She had been weighted down with concrete blocks.
Yeah.
A clear, meticulous attempt to keep her submerged, hidden forever. But those efforts failed. Decomposition gases likely brought her body to the surface.
Oh, God. The concrete blocks failed.
Yeah. An autopsy later confirmed she died from blunt force trauma, either 2 or 3 deep wounds to the head.
Blunt force trauma, so different from how Russell was killed.
Very different. And think about the effort involved there. Removing Shirley's body from the house, transporting her somehow, getting her onto a boat presumably, taking her miles across the lake, then trying to sink her with heavy blocks.
It's a huge amount of effort and risk.
Exactly. It indicates a significant, calculated, almost desperate attempt by the perpetrators to cover their tracks regarding Shirley, specifically, to erase her from the crime scene.
Okay, so let's piece this together. We have Russell found May 6th, Shirley found May 16th. When do investigators think the murders actually happened? They've narrowed it down to a very specific window, sometime between Friday, May 2nd, 2014, and Monday, May 5th, 2014.
That's a tight time frame, only about 3 days.
Incredibly tight. And that's significant, right? It strongly suggests this wasn't just a random, spontaneous burst of violence. It points towards something planned, something bold, something meticulously executed within that short window.
The timing implies premeditation.
Absolutely. It adds another chilling layer. A clear purpose, a calculated plan. That narrow window becomes critical for tracking movements, alibis, everything.
So from the very beginning, this investigation was facing huge hurdles.
Immense challenges, yeah. Despite chasing every lead initially, investigators found no suspects, and maybe even more confusingly, no clear motive.
Which is often the hardest part.
Sheriff Sells, again, a veteran lawman, has openly called this the most difficult case of my career. That says a lot coming from him.
It really underscores the complexity.
The Dermonds apparently had no known enemies, and crucially, nothing seemed to be stolen from their home, which looked pretty affluent.
Nothing, not even small things.
Reports say no. Easily accessible stuff like jewelry, laptops, even small amounts of cash, apparently untouched. This just throws that standard robbery motive into complete disarray, doesn't it?
It really does. It forces you to think way outside the box. Why such brutality if not for gain? And another thing Sheriff Sills has consistently said right from early on is his strong belief that multiple people were involved.
Not just one person.
No, he's convinced it took more than one person to carry out these crimes, handle both victims, manage the scene, and dispose of Shirley's body the way they did.
Okay. Does the FBI agree with that?
Yes. FBI Special Agent Andy Smith, who has over 20 years with the Bureau, fully agrees. He even called it one of the strangest cases that I've seen, partly because of how little evidence was left behind, especially initially.
And the FBI was involved from the start.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
They were there processing the original crime scenes with the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. Bringing in their resources immediately shows just how serious and baffling this was from day one. A national-level mystery, basically.
Okay, so let's dive into those puzzling oddities of the crime scene itself. You mentioned the lack of evidence, but specifically Russell's garage, described as extremely clean.
Yeah, remarkably clean.
Yeah.
Very little blood spatter where his body was actually found.
Which immediately makes you think.
He wasn't killed there. He was likely killed somewhere else and then moved to the garage.
Okay, so what does a clean scene like that tell investigators? Is it actually harder to solve? Or is the cleanliness itself a clue?
That's a great question. A clean scene isn't necessarily an absence of evidence. It's evidence of a very calculated effort.
Right.
It tells you the perpetrator or perpetrators were organized, or at least desperate to cover their tracks. It points strongly to premeditation, not a spontaneous rage killing. It definitely complicates finding forensics at that specific spot, but the act of cleaning and moving becomes a huge part of the puzzle. It reveals something about the killer's mindset.
And there's something about blankets.
Yes, another chilling detail. Blankets were apparently placed between Russell's body and the garage door. The interpretation is it was a deliberate effort, likely to contain any blood seepage, but maybe also to buy time, to create a buffer while they finished whatever they were doing or made their escape. Again, methodical.
Okay, methodical in the garage. But then you have the situation with Shirley. This raises that core question you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. The disparity in disposal methods. Why leave Russell's body, minus his head, in the garage, but take Shirley's body, go to all of that trouble, transport, boat, weights miles away in the lake?
It's such a stark difference. It feels like two different approaches almost.
It does. The effort involved with Shirley was immense, risky, time-consuming. It suggests a really significant, almost obsessive reason for getting her body away from the house.
But then the weights failed. Her body surfaced.
Right. And Sheriff Sills has pointed to that, the fact her body surfaced despite the cinder blocks, as maybe a sign the perpetrators weren't, quote, professionals in body disposal. Maybe they didn't understand decomposition, how gases make bodies float eventually, even weighted ones.
Okay, but wait. If they were meticulous enough to clean the garage, decapitate Russell, likely to hide ballistics, but then unprofessional with Shirley's disposal, doesn't that contradict itself?
It absolutely presents a contradiction. And that's part of the puzzle. Does it suggest maybe panic set in after the initial, maybe more calculated acts?
Right.
Or perhaps different people involved had different roles or levels of experience?
Or different emotional states.
Possibly. This dichotomy, this mix of carefulness and maybe clumsiness, it tells us something, but we don't know exactly what yet. It could point to their state of mind, coordination issues, or something else entirely.
All these contradictions just circle back to the biggest mystery motive. If it wasn't robbery, what on earth was it?
The million-dollar question. Or in this case, the no-dollar question, since nothing was taken.
Right. Let's walk through the main theories. The first one, even though nothing was taken, is still robbery gone wrong or extortion. Maybe they intended to rob them, thought they had a safe, hidden cache. Maybe the violence, like Shirley's blunt force trauma, was an attempt to get information that failed.
It's possible the intent was robbery, absolutely. But for a crime this extreme, with such efforts at concealment, investigators usually expect some payoff if robbery is the primary driver.
Yeah.
The fact that nothing obvious was taken makes a simple robbery less likely as the sole motive. It suggests maybe a very specific target, or maybe something went wrong very early on.
Oh, okay. What about the professional hit or message theory? That pops up a lot online.
It does. The brutality, the decapitation, the cleanup effort parts of it could suggest a professional or highly organized attack. Online forums, yeah, Reddit included, speculate it was a message for someone else, or maybe linked to Russell's old business dealings from decades ago. Even wilder theories like money laundering.
But how seriously do investigators take professional hit theories for an elderly retired couple and business deals from what, 20 plus years ago? Seems a stretch.
It is a stretch, typically. Investigators look into the past, sure, but establishing a direct link to such violence decades later is tough. Plus, the professional hit angle clashes with that potentially unprofessional body disposal of Shirley. It's another contradiction to weigh.
Then there's the family angle. Inheritance dispute. You said the immediate family cooperated and were cleared.
Reports indicate the children cooperated fully and were cleared early on, yes.
Yeah.
And the estate wasn't described as, astronomically huge.
But speculation persists. Other relatives.
Speculation always persists. Could there be other beneficiaries, grandkids, nieces, nephews with hidden financial motives? Financial desperation drives people to terrible things.
Yeah.
Investigators have to consider everyone, even distant connections, though there's been no public indication of leads in that direction.
Okay. What about something darker, more random, like a thrill kill?
That theory comes up when motives are unclear and the violence is extreme. Someone acting purely for sadistic pleasure.
But does that fit with the organized parts? Moving bodies, cleaning up.
Generally, no. Thrill killers are often less concerned with meticulous cover-ups. The organization here points away from pure, chaotic thrill-seeking for most investigators.
And finally, mistaken identity. Could they have just gotten the wrong house, the wrong people?
It's something investigators likely considered, especially at the very beginning. Is it possible they were targeted in error? It's rare for such a specific, brutal crime, but you have to check that box. Each theory you see has something that fits, but also something that just doesn't quite line up. That's the baffling nature of it. And adding another layer of complexity is where he lived, that gated community.
Right, greater waters. You'd think security would be tight.
You would.
Yeah.
But reports from the time suggest surveillance cameras at the main gate were either non-existent or just didn't capture anything useful. A major blind spot.
So land entry might not have been recorded. What about the lake?
That's the big theory. Lake Oconee is huge, 374 miles of shoreline. Countless places to launch a boat, approach the house from the water, bypassing land security completely.
And Sheriff Sills initially suggested they arrived by boat.
He did suggest that early on, yes, it would explain getting past the gate. But it also implies the perpetrators were familiar with the lake, comfortable navigating it, probably at night, disposing of a body, and getting away unseen. That takes skill and local knowledge. More recent statements seem to leave the entry method more open, though. The lake remains a key possibility, a potential silent highway for the killers.
And through all this theorizing, all the confusion, there's that one detail that just hangs there. Russell's missing head. Never recovered.
Never recovered. It plagues the investigation still. It's not just the psychological horror, which is immense, but it's a massive gap in potential evidence.
Denies closure in a profound way.
Absolutely. A deliberate act of erasure, almost. It leaves this tangible, awful void.
Okay, let's shift gears. Because after a decade of this frustration, this silence, suddenly there's hope. Real hope.
Yes. Fast forward to 2024, 10 years later, and for the first time in a decade, the FBI speaks publicly about the case again.
That's a big deal.
Huge signal. Special Agent Andy Smith, again, reiterating how unique, how perplexing this case has been for everyone involved, from local to federal. That public re-engagement wasn't just an anniversary marker, it signaled something had changed.
And that change was DNA.
The biggest breakthrough. New DNA evidence. Sheriff Sills, showing incredible persistence, sent clothing from the crime scenes to specialized labs, using forensic tech that just wasn't around or wasn't as refined 10 years ago.
And they found something.
They found something huge. DNA that does not belong to the victims, not Shirley's, not Russell's. An unknown profile. Sheriff Sills called it the best evidence we have developed in 10 years. A genuinely pivotal moment.
Wow, what kind of DNA are we talking about? Like blood or...
We're talking about touch DNA. which is incredible.
Explain that. Touch DNA.
It's basically the microscopic traces of genetic material, mostly skin cells, that someone leaves behind just by touching an object. Think about it brushing against something, picking something up. Years ago, these samples were just too small, too degraded to get anything from.
And not anymore.
Not with these specialized labs. They can now often detect, amplify, and get a usable profile from just a few cells. It's painstaking work, incredibly sensitive technique.
Which labs did they use?
To ensure they got the best, most reliable results, the evidence went to 2 top-tier private labs out of state, Uthram Lab in Texas and Sorensen Forensics in Utah. Both are known for cracking cold cases with advanced DNA work.
And both found it.
Both independently confirmed finding DNA from an unknown person on items near where Russell's body was found. That independent confirmation is huge.
So what happens now with that DNA?
The next crucial step is evaluation. Is there enough genetic material? Is the profile complete enough to enter into CODIS?
CODIS being the National Criminal DNA Database.
Exactly, the Combined DNA Index System. That's the first hope. Maybe this person is already in this system from a prior conviction or another crime scene somewhere else in the country. That would be a direct hit.
And if it's not suitable for CODIS?
Then the hope shifts to genealogical databases. This is how so many cold cases are being solved now. They use the DNA profile to find distant relatives, third cousins, fourth cousins, whatever, in public genealogy databases.
Like the ones people use for family trees.
Precisely. Then, through meticulous genealogical research, building family trees backward and forward, they can narrow down the possibilities and potentially identify the unknown donor of the DNA. It's complex, takes time, but it's incredibly powerful.
Incredible. And you said DNA isn't the only new lid?
Right.
That's the other amazing part. It's not just DNA. Investigators are also intensely analyzing cellular data, digital evidence.
From 10 years ago.
Yeah. Looking at devices that might have been in the Lake Oconee area around the time of the murders, cell tower pings, device activity logs, any kind of digital footprint potential suspects might have left.
Wow, technology catching up to the past.
Exactly. And Special Agent Smith from the FBI confirmed they've already gotten significant leads from this digital deep dive.
Significant leads. That's promising.
Very promising. So you've got this powerful combination, cutting-edge DNA plus sophisticated digital forensics. Investigators are now saying they're very optimistic about finally resolving this case.
After a decade of dead ends.
Yeah, think about it. Someone thought they got away clean 10 years ago. Now science is catching up. FBI agent Smith even put it out there directly. Whoever did this should be nervous.
That's a strong statement, a direct message.
It really is. It signals a shift, right? From quiet patience to active pursuit, confident they're closing in.
And this renewed activity, this hope, it's also reflected in the reward money, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. The reward has been significantly increased. Remember, the FBI initially offered $5,000 just for finding Shirley's body back when she was missing, and that was paid out.
Right.
But now, showing their commitment to getting an arrest and conviction, the FBI is offering a new reward of up to $20,000.
$20,000 from the FBI.
Plus, there's still an existing $5,000 reward offered by the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. So that's a total of $25,000 available for information that leads to an arrest and conviction.
$25,000. That's a serious incentive.
It really is. It reflects the renewed hope, the tangible progress, and the unwavering commitment from everyone involved to finally get justice for Russell and Shirley. It feels like they believe they're truly on the verge of something. So as we wrap up this deep dive, the Dermond murders, it remains this powerful, haunting story. The shocking brutality, the lack of a clear motive, those contrasting disposal methods, and just that agonizing decade-long wait for answers.
Yeah, it's been a real test of patience, a challenge for forensic science, and a constant dark cloud over that community. And while there's finally real progress on the who thanks to this DNA, the digital leads the why still hangs heavy over this case.
Right. We might find out who did it, but understanding the motive, that's still the core mystery.
Exactly. The full picture of what really happened between May 2nd and May 5th, 2014, it's still being pieced together bit by bit. Going from a few skin cells or cell signal to the full story, it's complex. But they're definitely closer than ever.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How these tiny, almost invisible details, a single touch, a faint signal bouncing off a tower can years later, unravel secrets someone tried so hard to bury. In this world now, with technology and science advancing so fast, how truly cold can a case like this remain? What does that mean for justice? for the families waiting, and maybe even for the peace of mind, or lack thereof, for whoever committed these acts.
It suggests that maybe, just maybe, no secret is perfectly kept forever. Even the smallest trace can persist.
This deep dive has covered a case that just cries out for resolution. A story of an elderly couple whose lives were ended so cruelly, leaving this void, this decade of questions. So if you, our listener, have any information, anything at all about the murders of Russell and Shirley Dermond, maybe something you saw back then, something you heard, something that seemed insignificant at the time, please know that your tip could be the final piece, no matter how small it seems.
It really could make the difference.
Please don't hesitate. You can contact the FBI Atlanta Field Office at 770-216-3000. Again, that's 770-216-3000. Or you can call the Putnam County Sheriff's Office at 706-485-8557. That number is 706-485-8557. You can also submit a tip online, and you can do it anonymously at tips.fbi.gov. That website is tips.fbi.gov. Let's hope we can help bring peace and finally get justice for Russell and Shirley Dermond.